Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video review. This time we have from Funko Pop the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex. So this is a joint review with Mandy J.
Hello.
Hey, so we have purchased the entire wave of Jurassic Park figures. We are going to be splitting up the reviews here. So on my channel you'll get the T-Rex as well as Hammond and Dennis's review, and then the rest will all be on Mandy J's channel. So highly recommend that you go to her channel for those videos and for other Funko reviews. The link for her channel will be in the description as well as in the cards and at the last 20 seconds of the video. So let's get started on this T-Rex, obviously the most iconic, dinosaur of the dinosaurs and from Jurassic Park in general. So going over the box, definitely something new to talk about here as far as the box is concerned, because it's completely different from your average Funko box, as you can see. I'm not quite sure. Have they used this? I know that they're using this box going forward with some of the figures that are like laying down. I don't know if they've used this box before. Do you know?
I know they've used it once with the Cars pops.
Oh, yeah.
With Lightning McQueen and Cruz Ramirez.
That's right.
So any of their kind of longer pops like that, but I haven't really seen it. It's not a common box. I know that for sure. And I kind of find it interesting that they decided to put this particular pop in the box this way as well. Because I feel like it makes it look shorter.
Yeah, and it almost feels like it could have fit in one of the regular boxes.
Yeah.
It might be a little difficult, but like sideways, I think it might have fit. But yeah, it does give it a smaller look.
I think it looks definitely like really cool, and if they could have, it would have been awesome to like have put all the dinosaurs in like the sideways box, because it kind of looks like a shipping container or something you would house animals in almost.
That's true. I do like that. One thing that kind of bugs me, it's very small, but the artwork for the item is on the right side instead of the left, considering all the other on all of the standard boxes it's on the left side.
Yeah. It doesn't bug me a whole lot, but I definitely like see how that's kind of going to be different for some people who aren't used to seeing it that way. I think on the laying down boxes they do put it on that side, just regardless. We'll have to see when we finally get Ian Malcolm, Sexy Goldblum in.
Oh yes, the Target exclusive.
Yes. In which we will hopefully have that one, and along with Ellie Sandler in the Jeep when those two come out sometime either later this month or like next month. I'm thinking most likely next month.
Yeah. All right, on to the actual dinosaur here. Overall, I mean, the first thing you have to talk about is the size. First of all, I like the fact that it's large. It is a large pop, it definitely has some weight to it. When I picked this up in the store, I was very surprised by how heavy it was. But regardless, it's not as big as it should be. This definitely lends itself to being a 6-inch pop, I believe.
I would rather have seen it in a 6-inch pop, because I know they're doing other ones, like they're doing like 10-inch pops of like certain characters, such as like the Porg, in which I feel like, yes, they're popular characters, but I feel like they missed something. It's just
obnoxious at that point.
Yeah, I feel like they missed something at this point. I feel like they missed a trick, something I think more people would put down a lot of money on a bigger T-Rex, and to have that than to have this, like, I mean, this one obviously is still very popular. I know we had to get to our home Hot Topic early in the morning, so that way we were there first thing to get ours, because they only had about 3 when they restocked.
Yes.
So I do know that the dinosaurs in this wave are extremely popular. If you're not someone who's willing to wake up early or try to order it online or whatnot, I would just suggest when everyone who must have these pops have their pops, like just wait it out a little bit and it'll be easier to find later, like most pops.
Yeah, it'll be easier to go about it that way. I do like the fact that this one doesn't cost any more, because it is larger than your average pop and it's still the same price. So I like the idea that you get quite a bit of value for money. However, just compared it to the film, it should be larger. But overall, I like the stance of this pop. I like the fact that he's very much taking a step forward. I like the larger feet and the very small little hands. I almost would have liked the tail to be flared out a bit more, so that it really expressed the fact that he's stepping forward and he's walking towards his prey. So I would have kind of liked that. It might have just been for the box restraints that they kind of had it wrapped around him so that it kind of fit in the box a little better.
Yeah, I do like actually how the tail is painted and shaped, just because it has really great feel to it, because you do get that darker upper part of his tail and you kind of see the fine line between the dark and the light, so it really gives it some really neat characteristics. So I actually really kind of like the paint job on this one. even though it is a plainer paint job, it still has that wonderful kind of metallic to the brown, which we lose in the Velociraptor. And I think the shading on it is really well done too, because it's very just a solid, I think they used 2 or maybe even 3 shades of brown and that was it, but it still looks great.
Yeah, I definitely like the melding of the browns. The feet look a little plain to me. However, I do like the body a lot, and I love the head when it comes to the paint. With all the little detail in there, they've kind of washed in like a darker brown and some maybe even a little bit of gray in some of the areas, which really makes that fine detail pop, which is quite nice.
And I do, again, like, out of, like, the other videos we talked about, the sculpts on these dinosaurs are absolutely phenomenal. Just because they have the great texturing, they wrinkle, they really look like what you would expect them to look. I'm really glad they didn't make them really flat or just kind of plain. You have such fine, like right here in the tail, you can kind of like make out where his spine is along with like the wrinkling of the fabric. And I just think that's absolutely astonishing how they were able to get in such detail on such a small figure.
Yeah, I totally agree. The paint is excellent. And going into the mouth, you do like how the fact that they've blacked out the back section of the mouth. This dinosaur has the widest jaw range as far as the dinosaurs that we reviewed. He's got the mouth that's open the widest, which I think is appropriate for the T-Rex. But yeah, they've blacked out the back there, so it kind of looks like when you're just looking straight at it, you can't see the end. And then the teeth, I like a lot. I like the fact that they're spaced quite well, and they're not kind of melded together, and they didn't have the paint where the paint is just kind of all brushed on the teeth, which gets on the lips. I'm not a fan of that. That is something that has happened with the Velociraptor. We discussed that in that review, so make sure you go to Mandy's channel to check out the review of our Velociraptor. But yeah, the teeth, the paint on the teeth, it just kind of wraps around all of the teeth and gets on the lips. That's not the case with this T-Rex. It's all individually done.
The paint does come down a little bit on the lips, but the fact that I've seen it worst on the Velociraptor, it doesn't really bug me in this sculpt.
Yeah, at least they're not touching each other.
Yeah, that is true. But I really overall just like, again, the texturing is like phenomenal. I really like how they've done this. I do agree what you mentioned before, how like just in general, this isn't necessarily the best stance when it comes to trying to like display it and trying to find like the best way to kind of like place it.
When you're holding this thing and just looking at it from all angles, it looks wonderful. I love the stance, and it's really nicely done. But when you're just like going for a picture or just have him like on your shelf, I don't feel like there's a particular spot that just he looks perfect, you know? I think that it has to do with the fact that his head is so much larger than his body, which that's obviously a trademark of Funko, but I feel like it's more extreme on this one because comparing it to some of the other dinosaurs from this series, I feel like his head is much larger than his body, even compared to the other figures. So it kind of hides some of the detail in his body, which gives him a bit of an awkward look, depending on how you have him displayed. But here are the rest of the dinosaurs together from this wave.
Well, I do know that the T-Rex, just in general, seems to have a larger head than the rest of its body, so I think they were trying to portray that. Yeah. But I think they went a little bit too big, because even the Velociraptor, I think its head is slightly bigger than its body, but not by a whole lot. And so when you see it here in the pop, it does scream pop with how big his head is without being so big that it looks kind of funky. It's just, I think because of how his head is and how big it is, you kind of tend to lose a lot of that detail and stuff, all depending on how you're looking at it. Because from where we're sitting, we're looking at it from like a downward angle, so you miss a lot of his arms and like most of his body, all depending on how you're looking at him. And I'm looking at him like head on.
Yeah, I totally agree. Overall, the dinosaurs of this wave together, we talk about this in their individual reviews, but as far as ranking them, how would you rank the dinosaurs?
Oh gosh, this is a hard one for me. Dilophosaur, obviously the first one. It is overall the best. I really enjoy it. The coloring, the markings, everything on it is really like on point with it. If I had to go with a 2 and really choose a 2, I would have to look at my pros and cons and like what I've been complaining about. And the fact that even though the T-Rex, its proportions are kind of a little wonky and that I wish it had a better pose, it's not one that I would consider doing a custom or a repaint of, where I am going to do at least one custom on the Velociraptor because I have 2 of those. So I would definitely say 1 would be the Dilophosaur, 2 would be the T-Rex, 3 would be my Velociraptor.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that ranking. It's a little easier for me, though. I do definitely like the T-Rex more than the Velociraptor, and I think just the value for money kind of gets me, and as a collector, I do enjoy when they release something large and they don't charge any extra for it, which is what they did with this T-Rex, even though it's not large enough to be accurate. But for me personally, yeah, Dilophosaurus is by far the best. The Velociraptor and T-Rex are a little closer together, but I do put the T-Rex above the Velociraptor. And if I just had to pick my favorite dinosaur out of these three, especially from the movie Jurassic Park, Velociraptor would be my favorite. So it's a little disappointing that my favorite dinosaur of the three is the not the best pop. However, I can agree that all of the pops are good. I wouldn't recommend just skipping any of these outright. I think that if you want a dinosaur for your collection, go with the Dilophosaurus, unless you just want the classic T-Rex for the classic T-Rex purposes. But overall, I would recommend getting all three if you want, if you have a Jurassic Park display.
Yeah, I would definitely agree just because I think this is a really fun pop set. I don't think we've ever seen a pop set like this before. Just with how detailed they are and everything. I feel like they do typically like go with the less detailed, flatter, cartoonier style. For a lot of things, they don't really do the texturing. So the fact that we have these three amazing pops that are well textured, have great color schemes and everything, I definitely suggest getting all three.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest, like, again, if I would say if you're only getting one, get the Dilophosaur. But other than that, if you're gonna pick up one more, you might as well get all three.
Yeah, overall, I think that these have a particularly high amount of detail on them. They have some depth when it comes to the paint. There's lots of shading going on. And then they just have unique stances and proportions, so these, I would even recommend these for people who are not necessarily Funko collectors, just people who enjoy Jurassic Park. I think that they have a less classic Funko look to them, and therefore they can kind of fit in displays that aren't just Funko.
I definitely agree with that just because they don't feel like Funko. Like, they don't scream Funko, but I'm not necessarily, like, upset about that. Like, I really kind of like the fact that they don't scream Funko.
Yeah.
And I think they look great when you get the other characters in on this as well.
Yeah, they work great in a Funko display as well as just on a Jurassic Park display in general. So yeah, overall, really do enjoy the Jurassic Park figures.